basically I will build the athlete to become really resilient. Physical resilience is the terms I like to use instead of being injury prevention.
G'day folks, it's Jeff here. Welcome to my Movember side project, one that doesn't have a name yet. However, as it is Movember, a month dedicated to opening the discussion surrounding mental health, this video series will aim to bring you different perspectives on the very broad topic of health. The guests on the series will range from varying fields of expertise from nutrition science, exercise physiology, entrepreneurship, and hopefully more. Our very first guest is Blake Ashby. Blake and I have known each other for a while now, ever since I've met him as the head trainer at my local F45 in 2017. His generosity in helping others is something that always stood out for me, and is a big part of my success in winning an 8-week challenge back then. He was always willing to take the time for answering your questions, as well as give you a few pointers for improving your form. He even helped me prepare for my 35-kilometre walk for Trek West Peakies, which was the 2018 edition for Movember. Just like he has in the past, he was very willing to help me out with this side project, and I was very humbled that he would be my very first guest. As a strength and conditioning coach, Blake has gone on to work with the Sturt Football Club in the SANFL, which is the South Australian National Football League. He's also worked with the Adelaide 36ers in the NBL, and more recently he has secured an internship with the storied NBA franchise, the Los Angeles Lakers. Blake has a unique take on how he prepares his athletes. His philosophy is a bottom-up approach where he factors in the unique characteristics of the individual, their goals, and their relative situation in order to reach success in their endeavour. In terms of longevity of the athlete, Blake promotes physical resilience as opposed to injury prevention. And as Blake says, some injuries can and will occur. Now, let's dive into the conversation with Blake. Before we do, however, I do have to apologise to Blake and for you, the listeners and viewers, that one of the cameras towards the back end of the interview had run out of battery, as well as one of our mics had lost audio. So the quality of the audio and the shot you'll see will focus on Blake for the last few minutes, and also the audio quality drops. So I'd like to apologise. It is my first show. We'll just put that down to a learning experience. But it's all part and parcel of the rawness of that is this show. But again, thank you very much for taking the time to listen, and I hope you enjoy this episode with Blake.
Well, Blake, thank you very much for taking the time out to join me today on the show, the project. We don't know what it's called just yet, but for now, for those tuning in and listening in, this is Blake.
I am Blake.
Blake and I have known each other for a few years now. We first met at F45 when Blake was the head coach there, and Blake's indirectly and directly helped me out with a couple of Movember campaigns. He helped me out with the walk. Yep, set me up with a program to help me get up to speed, and so I thought, you know what, who better to bring on to the show and pick their brains as to how to improve your life and health and well-being, as you've got a fountain of knowledge. You've recently just got back from the US, so how was that and what were you doing?
Yeah, look, so US internship. I was fortunate enough to get accepted with the LA Lakers as a strength and conditioning coach. Beautiful. So very busy process. I'll be heading back, heading there into December. Yep. Want to finish off the internship, hoping to, don't tell my employer, but get a job. But hoping to make an impact, learn a few things, and come back and help more sports teams, I guess.
Yeah. So how did you overall get into that? So I knew you from way back 5 years ago.
Easy.
Where were you back then?
So 5 years ago, I reckon I was still at F45. Started there in 2014, I think. Yeah. So 5 years ago, head coach F45, helping out the younger coaches get better and learn, and just started my studies, I think, back then, maybe first or second year of undergrad. Working a couple teams, and I think I just started my own Blake Ashby project, I think.
Yeah, cool.
I think it was around there, the online stuff.
Yep.
I'm pretty sure I was the first person to do that, hey. Like, create a platform, everyone can go help themselves, but I wasn't very Yeah, I got bored of that. So, so not to be. But yeah, I think we first met even before that, really, because what time did you get F45? 2015, 2016?
I think it was about 2017. So it was in the lead up to my wedding at the time. So,
right.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's nice. But yeah, 5 years ago, probably just F45 as a PT.
Yep.
Got my strength and conditioning qualifications around there. Became a team S&C coach. And yeah, now I'm here.
So you've come from F45, became a strength and conditioning coach, or you started your journey as an academic as well. You started getting your skills up through there.
Yes.
So what are some of the sports that you now sort of specialise in? We mentioned the Lakers before, and what are some others?
The sports I specialise in would be AFL and basketball. I have a keen interest in mixed martial arts. More so the movement and the conditioning patterns, but the main sports are basketball and football. I've helped people that play tennis at a high level. I've helped golfers. But they're all just fun. As the art of strength and conditioning is making the human body optimal for their specific situation or sport.
Yep.
My favourite thing about it. But yeah, mainly just basketball and football, which is good fun.
So has that been something that's been a part of your life, basketball and footy? And
yeah, so I played a lot of basketball growing up. Got to a decently high level.
When you're saying decently high level, come on now.
No, look.
Where did you get up to?
The Lakers, I'm kidding. Look, so a couple friends and I, we got to, train and do some cool things with the Sixers and, be involved with those state league programs, pinch hit with the Sixers, with some training stuff, which is cool. Left that in 14, 15, and then went to play football with the SANFL program, Port Adelaide Magpies.
Yep.
And then 2016, I think I stopped, and 2017 was my academic get serious year. Yeah. Once I realised I was 24, I'm like, yep, I suck at sport, so I'm gonna go pursue academics. So those who can't teach apparently, which is good. So. Yeah, here I am now.
Yeah, and here you are. You're impacting the lives of many people out there, not just my own. And obviously, you've got. I noticed on your LinkedIn bio, you call yourself a performance coach as well. Yes. What separates you as a performance coach as opposed to like any other coach?
I think it's the way you deliver the message. I think a lot of people are missing out on the beauty of strength and conditioning, physical performance, physical preparation coaches. Yeah, it's the way I think about things. I'm very weird. So when you're prescribing a bicep curl, people might say, that works the bicep. I'm wondering why it works the bicep. Why do you want the bicep to work? And can we work in other planes? So it's, I don't see a light turn on, I see white turns on. And I want to know more about it. That's probably the biggest thing. So I'm very philosophical, I think the word would be. I think that's the word even yourself taught me back in the garage one-on-ones.
In the garage days, yeah.
Yeah, in the one-on-ones.
Days, yeah.
That's it, COVID. I definitely didn't have a gym during that time. That's illegal. It's so I was saying before to you off air, it was, does the body know what it's doing? So I think that's a very core, fundamental way of thinking. So when I prescribe anything in strength and conditioning, I ask myself, does the body know what it's doing? And the answer is no. The body's a reactive based system. It's reacting to make itself level in all categories. It doesn't want to work out, doesn't want to have these things. It just wants to chill out. Now we should work out. It's a great thing. It creates perfect and really good adaptations and helps us in the long run. But it's fascinating to perceive things that way. So I think I look at things a bit deeper than just prescribing a run or an exercise. So I think it's a unique way to look at it. Could be wrong, could be right, but the way I look at things is there is no right or wrong. So either way I win. So,
so as you said there, your philosophy on the way that you approach things is that you view the body as a reactive-based system. It's wanting to stay in a state of homeostasis, or that it wants to be chill out. Yeah. Don't put it under any stress. Don't put it under I can't remember the opposite of what stress is, but put it in a state or like a comatose state almost. It just wants to be in a pretty chilled out chilled out sort of space. So how do you go about preparing your athletes then? If the body's a reactive thing, what's your process or philosophy?
Well, it just depends. So, like, it's interesting that see, as humans, we tie something to something. So, because we have a subconscious thought, we attach a relationship, a thought process, an emotional response to something. So that's the first thing I remove. So, if someone wants to get better at running, so people would say, "Oh, you must get more explosive, more power, more of these weird terms that humans have created." When if you look at it and go, the body doesn't know what running is. So how do we make those cells do what we want to do? And that would be this example, power-based running. But it's thinking that way. So it would essentially be, how do I program it? So first of all, it's situation-based. So I always go based on specificity, individuality, and relativity. They're the most common things I look at the specific situation. So how would I program? It's tricky. It's tricky to describe. My brain's, the way I describe my brain, it's like a spider web, just spitting ideas and webs everywhere. Mm-hmm. But the best thing I would say would have to be, how would I word that? I don't know.
So let's maybe give you a scenario here. You've come across one of your athletes who, let's say basketball, for instance. That they've come at you for, they want to improve their performance. What are the relative or the factors that make up a basketball player? What are the things that come up to you for their performance?
Yeah, that's fair enough. No, good example. Probably should have thought of that. So it's for a basketball player, they're very lateral, the way they move their defensive positions. They jump really high when they're making a layup, and they should be strong in any situation with the ankle and the knee when they land. So that's the first thing I look at. What does a basketball player need? Probably the top three. And then I break down those three things into movements or conditioning aspects that's going to help them conquer those three major objectives of moving laterally, side to side, jumping in the air, and then landing with a stable ankle. So that's where it comes back to the body doesn't know what it's doing. The body doesn't know what a lateral slide is, what a jump is, what a stable ankle is. So what you can perform exercises that replicate that to basically tell the body it's getting used to it. So if I'm doing a lateral based training, that's going to work things on the outside of the hip, the inside of the hip as a major component. So I'd make sure the exercises that I do have that and that, because the body doesn't know, I'm doing a lateral slide, time to use my glute med and my adductors together to perform a lateral movement. It doesn't think like that. It just goes, I'm moving for some reason, now to respond and make sure I don't tear a muscle. So that's how I think. And that'd be the first thing I'd do. So I'd go a list, major things to focus on, how to reach them, minor things to focus on, how to reach them, set up a timeline, and then measure week 1, day 1, measure week 4, day 1, and then just keep going based off those metrics. But for a basketball player, anything that's lateral, like a Cossack squat, anything that's vertical to help their vertical jump, like a front squat mixed with box jumps, and anything for stable ankles, not balancing on a Bosu ball because that's balance, not stability. Probably heaps of single leg work, single leg calf raise, for example, and mixing up the external factors, trying to throw them off a little bit. It's making sure you're not prescribing something that you think the body knows what you're doing. That's the first thing. And second thing is making a list of major things to focus on, minor things to focus on, and make sure those goals are the priority of each session. Yeah.
So it sounds like it's like a really, from your point, you're really getting precise on even the most, one of them, like the muscle groups. You're not clumping them all into one. You're like, you mentioned your glute med, also the adductor. So you're looking at the individual groups and like real individual muscles as a, I heard this term in a paper earlier, but like it was more, it's like a constellation of systems. So like, you've got specific things that all work in their own unique ways, but they together they perform the actions
Definitely.
that you're after.
It's just that way, and it's breaking them down. So you go from how does the joint move, how does the muscle perform, and then what way of the vector do you want to hit. So I think people don't do this enough. So for an example, if someone wants to jump higher, do we only need to do exercises that make them go up and down? And people's answer is always going to be, well, yeah, that makes sense. So the body doesn't know you're going up and down. So can I invert you, lay you down, and do, say, a leg press at 90 degrees on your back? What's the difference? Oh, but you're laying down. I said, well, it's head to toe where the force is distributed. The body doesn't know. So the body doesn't know, therefore you can put it that way. And that's another way to train someone that can't do a squat, that has arthritis, that is older. It's putting the body in a position that it doesn't know what it is. So therefore it doesn't matter. Yeah. One of my favorite things to do actually is that. But yeah, it's looking at things. The human body is so complex. It shouldn't be so simple. It shouldn't be given a simple thought process. It should be given a complex thought process, really break it down, and then deliver it really simple. So I might just write someone, do a bicep curl, but I have thought about every nook and cranny possible to why that should be the best exercise in that situation. Mm-hmm. I think people just write bicep curl. They don't think about everything. Is that wrong or right? I don't know. But I'd rather have every known backup information possible for if someone asks why, then they go, well, it looks good. So, you know, so
sometimes it comes down to, like, I guess there might be situations where, you know, you work those particular muscle groups. It might be like an aesthetic thing, like, you know, like that's what I want, the big booty or the glamour bicep muscles or the big pumping chest. Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah,
that's very common. Very common. Yeah.
But you're more thinking about the function. Before you sort of touched on it earlier, you measure someone's progress from week 1 through to week 4. Tell me a bit more about like the measurements that you take.
Yeah, it just depends on the goals. That's the first thing. It's always specific to the situation, individual to the person, and relative to what they want to get better at. Or there's my 3 pillars. Very hard to say quickly. So it depends. So if someone that wants to improve on their aerobic capacity, so they might want to get better at a 2K time trial. Okay, well, the testing would make sense to be either a 2K time trial week 1 and week 4, or maybe 2 sets of 1Ks. If we had access to some sort of VO2 max machine, that'd be great. But yeah, it depends on their goal. If someone wants to get better at bench press, we just measure bench press week 1, week 4, or week 8. There's no right or wrong way to do it. You know, you can literally measure anything for strength. If you want to get a stronger human and you measure bicep curl, if it gets stronger, there's a good chance a lot of muscles around it are also stronger. Because I'm taking that with context of the person's probably training the entire body as well. But yeah, finding something that's relative to the goal, specific to the goal, and then measure it. There's a thing that's a good way to think about anything to do with hitting a goal is if you look at your goal, break it down, and picture it having the low-hanging fruit, the things that are just definitely going to work. People can probably consider them boring or not the most exciting thing, but they're the bang for buck, get them done. 75% of your goal setting program should be that. And then it's the fun stuff where the 20%, and this is where most strength and conditioning coaches or whoever it is could differ. They might say, well, now it's really important you do velocity-based training. It's really important that you do contrast training. Me personally, it's specific to the person. Right. So if we were going to choose something like, better at a aerobic capacity, like a 2K, okay, low-hanging fruit, something that's going to get better at a 2K time is running a lot. So do 1 kilometer for 3 minutes times 10.
Yep.
Don't do that, anyone. But just for an example, low-hanging fruit, things like they're just going to work. So now the last 20-30% is specific. Okay, 2K time trial. All right, let's break it down to minutes per kilometer. Let's break it down to steps. Let's break it down to whatever it may be. So get the low-hanging fruit first, and then 20-30%, or say 25%, is specific. I like game-based conditioning for like my Sturt team. In the SANFL, we want a team of athletes that can run all day, hit high speeds, and do it repeatably. So to do that, I break down the metrics to measure that. So aerobic, can they run 12Ks? Well, we have to do that during a training session at some point. Can they hit that? Speed, can they reach their top speed without, increasing their chances of injury? And then their speed endurance, can they hit that zone 6, zone 7, that top speed? So I break that down even further. What muscles do you need to be able to handle that? What joints need to take care of that? And do all those kinds of things. But they all do the low-hanging fruit for 75%, the things that are just going to work. And then 25% we get real specific to the sport, which is the goal. Play football at a high level.
So it sounds like you build the foundation with that 75% first, and then the other 25 are your like real specific factors in terms of if it's sports based. Like your basketball is going to be trained completely different to your footballer, to a tennis player. Those are, you're going to have different functions. So that's where you get like the real the fun stuff. But there are some stuff that it sounds like you've really got to nail first.
Got to nail, that's the big stuff first. Yeah, and you can do it at the same time. That's contrast training. You can do all of these things at once. That's fine, and everyone's different. That 25%. Some people just think, the low-hanging fruit, the good stuff, the foundational work, it should be 100%. I don't care how boring it is, get it done. That's some clubs, SANFL, just do that. They don't care what it is, just run for 30 minutes. Some coaches think it should be all game-based conditioning. Don't go from a 10-minute run. Let's just play heaps of the sport. Basketball is more game-based conditioning, so a lot of coaches will just never do team suicides, shuttle running, interval running, just because they believe that the entirety of basketball just should be scrimmaging. You get your fitness from that, and that's completely fair enough. It's context to the sport. I personally would still do some sort of running. I'd still expose them to some sprints at some regard. So if you don't do any sprint work, when it comes to sprinting, your chances of, a likelihood of an injury do increase somewhat. Well,
speaking of injuries, so say you've got the coach whose philosophy is like game-based conditioning, or the majority of your fitness base should be coming from scrimmages. How, in that instance, how do you prepare an athlete so that they're able to do the things that they can do without creating injuries or maintaining the longevity of that particular player?
Yeah, that's pretty solid. So it's one thing that I try and it's when I got involved with Woodville, Sturt, the Sixers, the most common words I've ever heard in my life is injury prevention. I tend to try to avoid those two words just because I think they mean prevent injury, which I think is impossible. If it's going to go, it's going to go. Now, I think the words have a caveat for that, which would be you can do a lot of things, including the programs I will mention in a sec, that are going to decrease likelihood of injury. It's the best athletes in the world still do a hammy. Just sometimes you're putting too much force through your body. It can handle this much, but you've for some reason given it this much. That gap there, that's the chance of your injury. Some people do no sprint work at all. They just play game-based conditioning, so they're used to this level. And then for some reason, they do 10 sprints. That gap there, that's your likelihood of injury. Best way to explain it. And you can never be 0.0000% chance of injury. It's just not going to happen. Even if you do everything right, sometimes it happens. It's unfortunate. But to make longevity happen, I'll look at the body as a whole. So first of all, teach the human, because they are all humans that just happen to play sport, about your tendons, ligaments, muscles, joint, all these kinds of things to create them healthy. So I want to educate them, so if they do leave in a week, in 10 years, whatever it is, they know that for tendons, isometric work, flexibility for joints, muscles should be in a controlled movement, lowering them, or eccentric, concentric, fancy stuff, or can they go with gravity, can they go against gravity? That's the first thing. So educating them, real simple things. So if they do leave for whatever reason, they know, okay, I can take care of myself and do a program for myself. I think education's key for most things. And for me personally, when I prescribe stuff, I will always make sure throughout the week they hit roughly 20 sets worth of tendon, ligament, and joint-based focused healthy things. So for tendon, it's isometric work. For ligament, it's just resistance training. And for joints, it's making sure we get some sort of stretch in. So I'll make sure we get 20 sets a week, hitting those kinds of things in my warm-ups, in my strength programs. knowing they might do Pilates, all these kinds of things. So I'll make sure I have a massive Google spreadsheet of each player, and I'll make sure they hit their targets. A strength program could probably take care of most of it. If you're hitting full range of motion, flexibility, ticked. If you need ligament/tendon development, people call tendon health, a strength program will take care of that. If there's isometrics, if there's eccentric, so lowering or a lengthening of a muscle, there's probably enough. So basically, I will build the athlete to become really resilient. Physical resilience is the terms I like to use instead of being injury prevention.
Yeah.
So I'll tell someone, become physically resilient, and that's better.
Yeah, I guess that's kind of like the half glass full, half empty. You know, your language plays an important part in your philosophy. You're either looking at the problem or you're looking at a solution. And by being physically resilient, which is what you're saying, that is your philosophy. That's like, you're trying to make the human or the system to be as resilient as possible, or tolerate the stresses and pressures that come with game-based game-based scenarios and those sorts of things. Like, I guess with football, it's a contact sport. There'll be contact injury-related injuries there, and like I was with basketball, I guess there's a lot of force and tension that goes through knees, ankles, those sorts of things as well. So sometimes there's some freak accidents that happen. Yeah,
but that's why I don't. It's like if you're selling something with a definitive, I think that's wrong in sports. Nothing is definitive. I think it's all it's all grey area, not black and white. I think we should be teaching athletes and other coaches that you should be understanding every principle about every single thing. Very hard to do, but implementing your own methodology to hit these principles. Doesn't matter how you skin the cat's been skinned. So I think the problem, people think that they're skinning the cat, that's the principle, when they're still doing a methodology. That makes sense. So injury prevention is a bunch of words that is a way of skinning a cat, where I'd like to just understand the cat is being skinned. That is a physically resilient human being that can undertake multitude of tasks.
Excellent. So, I mean, I guess the theme of the show is really about trying to promote those things that create a healthy person and makes them as resilient to those sorts of things in general. But if I say the word health, what does that mean to you?
Well, it still underpins my three philosophies, my three pinnacles of relativity, subjective, and individual. So those three things are very important. Just because health is relative to you, it's relative to your situation, and it's super subjective. How do you perceive things? If I said the words to somebody, whole grain and organic is the key to health, if they're a keto, carnivore based person, I'll get shot. So it's always relative to you. I think health comes in different shapes, sizes, diets, lives. Comes in mental, physical, emotional. There's different aspects to it. So from a strength and conditioning perspective, dealing with a lot of athletes in that realm, it's mainly like three things. Can the athlete sleep properly, eat properly, and train properly? It's pretty simple. For the general population, it's just huge. And I think one of the problems we see from my perspective in the industry is that it's the same concept. It's people try to simplify a very complex thing, which is great, but I think they do that without thinking of the complex stuff. So they'll just go, well, health is organic. Says who? And then can you explain why? And they will say something really ludicrous that you haven't thought about the complexities of how the human body works. And it comes back to it, does the body know what, for example, organic toast is? No. The body doesn't know what it's doing. No, the body knows what it's doing. The body doesn't know what you're feeding it, training it, doing to it. It's just reacting, and it's doing this awesome thing of adapting to whatever you're giving it and creating a healthier, happier you. Yeah, cool. So it's relative, subjective, and individual. So it's really, from what it sounds like, it's like a real bottom-up
sort of view. Like it comes to the person, whatever that person lives in, whatever their sort of philosophies are, whatever their inclinations are towards diet, particular quality of inputs that they want to put into the person. That's all relative to them, and then you just adapt your style around that.
Yeah, just follow like key principles. That's the thing. It's really funny because even the way I just explained it is that is the most evidence-based way to word something. It's super specific, relative, subjective, individual to the human at all times. Because when diets are matched with calories, fiber, protein, and exercise, nothing changes. So therefore, from an evidence-based perspective, which people would see as scientific, so a definitive thing, well, the definitive thing is it just depends. So it sucks to say, it's not very flashy and sexy, but it just depends. There are key principles that you could hit. 300 minutes of exercise a week, 2 grams per kilo of protein, 7+ hours of sleep, 2 liters of water, all these kinds of things. But how you hit them doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. And the way I describe to most people, I was talking to my the SANFL boys. So a lot of them have real, I'll use the word, lack of understanding with nutrition. It's great, it's good, I'm sure, but it's one thing we got through to them was fill your buckets. So a great analogy I delivered to a lot of the high school kids, a lot of other people, is fill your buckets. So picture every macronutrient, micronutrient, sleep, exercise is a bucket. And you can fill the bucket up with water, right? It's the liquid. So protein, 2 grams per kilo. Okay, well, if I'm 80, that's 160 grams. Okay. I have 30 grams for lunch, fill the bucket up. I have 60 grams for dinner. Whatever it is, eventually the bucket is getting filled, metaphorically, not filling the bucket up. You're filling the bucket up with your protein intake. Eventually the bucket is filled once you've had 160 grams of protein. Or if I have 170, the bucket's overfilling, it'll get rid of it. If the bucket's half full, well, you can work on that. So there are principles to adhere to, but it doesn't matter. The body doesn't know what that F vitamin C is. It sees something, it goes, I know what that is, I will use that because it seems to be doing something really good over here. It doesn't go, give me orange juice. Thank you for that, this is vitamin C, I'm going to use this, and then I'll put it over here. It's like, the body doesn't know that. The body doesn't know what vitamins, we as humans called it vitamin C, because we saw it delivering a very good response to us, and we just assigned a name to it. So people get confused by that. That's why they'll see stuff like low sugar. They think, well, the body knows what sugar is. No, it doesn't. The body doesn't go, oh crap, it's donuts. This is it. The body doesn't know what sugar is.
Yeah. So it's like I guess that there's been there's like the label, which is vitamin C, which is what we've given to that
specific chemical
or compound, and then I guess later on down the track, marketers get a hold of it, and gets through to the population that's what needs to be done. But so it sounds pretty cool that that your philosophies on health, it is very up to the individual, and it can come down to like the 3 basic pillars that you've given us, which are specific, individual, and subjective.
Yeah, it's also specific, but you can just interchange that with subjective.
Yeah, cool. Well, I mean, we could probably go on for hours and hours here, but like this is just a real short snippet that I could give out to people who are thinking of donating to the campaign for this year. For those that don't know yet, we'll be doing a 10,000 calorie challenge in terms of trying to burn 10,000 calories in as short of a time period as possible. I might have to get your help. Get your help in preparing myself for it, because I have not moved my body or worked it out since about becoming a father, really.
So I was telling you, your body's used to this much, and you do this much. That difference in injury. We're gonna build you up a little bit.
Just a teeny bit. Yeah. But Blake, this has actually been a great and informative chat. I really loved hearing your background as to how you've come up through the ranks of working through as an S&C coach. Well, starting off in elite sport, like you started off there, like in your junior days, and moved away from that and moved into coaching, and now you're hitting up the big smoke with the LA Lakers as an intern. So again, you're living the grind, and You're doing great things. So, mate, I really appreciate your time. Thank you very much for everything. And I never know, I might get you back on and
Yeah, for sure.
pick your brain, and get more info out.
More than happy to come anytime, mate. It's always fun just to chat some crap.
Well, there you go. Episode 1. Done and dusted. I hope you managed to get some value out of that chat that I had with Blake. He obviously has quite a very unique perspective in how he approaches his preparation with his athletes and modifying his approach to their individual and specific needs. Again, this is really about trying to give you value throughout this whole month of November. And if you found that you did find some value off the back of this, remember to like the post and share it as far and wide. And also, if you're compelled to do so, please donate via the link that I'll either post in the comments or that's up on screen right now if you punch in that that team web page on the Movember website, or you could also search by 10,000 cows with pals. Thanks again for listening. I'll catch you on the next episode, which will be with Dr. Ashley Homer.